Welcome to Dallas. My name is Gabe Abshire, and this is Connecting the Journey. As entrepreneurs, we're always looking forward. We're always hard driving. We're looking to the future. We're looking to see what's next. The thesis of this show is that as entrepreneurs, we need to take some time and look back. And we're going to start this program off with some alumni that have been in EO, that have been through the journey, that are doing different things now. And we're going to take a step back through, their entrepreneur journey and look at those things that really made a difference along the way. And I truly feel that it's very difficult for us to move forward with appreciation and gratitude if we don't first look back and see where we came from. So I'm really excited about our first guest today. I've known Lloyd Banks for 25 years. I don't want to do the math. It's been a while. We first met each other in Denton, Texas when I was in college, and we'll get into those stories. But Lloyd's had a very interesting journey. I'm excited to jump into his version of what quitting looks like as an entrepreneur. Welcome to the show, Lloyd.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you having me, man.
Man, I'm excited to sit down with you. I mean, I guess we can do the math real quick. 94, yeah. Oh, damn, it's so close to 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're coming up on 30 years.
It's
so
not good. I can see it all.
Known Lloyd for a while. He ran clubs in Denton, and that's where I went to school. And so we had lots of late nights counting cash in the back room.
Yeah.
And lots of fun stories. We'll get into some of that. But Lloyd was in EO for a while. And he's gone down this journey of speaking and really delivering this message of quitting. And it's an interesting, we were just talking about, it's an interesting tagline, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure it gets some attention, but let's talk about how you got here first.
Yeah, man. So, I was also a student back at good old UNT a little bit before you. And, honestly, it all got started because as I was in school, getting my amazing degree in recreation and leisure studies after 5.5 years.
A long, illustrious career.
Yes,
me too.
Really took my time.
Yeah.
But I figured out, the one thing I saw in Denton that we didn't have any like big clubs or live music venues and things. I mean, we had plenty of little bars, but they held 75 people. And I thought, man, here's an opportunity. And I really started to see that, and that became my vision and my obsession, honestly, and probably why I stayed in college longer. I was doing research. And at age 25, I bought my first nightclub, and it was an old country bar that had been really popular in town. And when I went in the last night they were open and people found out that I was the guy I was coming in and I was changing things, I had some good old boys that didn't take too kindly to that. And I remember being exited out the back door quickly because I thought I was going to have some boot marks on my face if I didn't get out of there pretty quick. So
what was it before?
It was called the Texas Star.
The Texas Star.
Yep. And I spent a lot of time there. I had a lot of friends who worked there. And so, they got ready to sell the place. So I bought it, and that just kind of turned into one thing after another. A couple of years later, I bought the old, I don't even remember what it was called now, the Purple Building. And
Kinkies.
Kinkies, and turned it into our bar. And then it just kind of kept going. And at one point, I owned, I think, 5 different bars and clubs in 2 different cities. And, it just kept going and going and going. And then I thought life was really good. And then it was just somewhere along the way that, we'd get into that, where I was at my most success, making more money than I ever thought I'd make in my whole life. Just, from the outside looking in, people thought, man, this guy's really got it all. And on the inside, I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable, like just pretty morally bankrupt and just, living a life that I'd never dreamed that I wanted to live.
I mean, 25 years old, starting bars, so that you did that for 10 years?
I had bars and clubs for 25 plus years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but like early on, and you talk about outside looking in, right?
Yeah.
We had plenty of good times,
Yeah.
right? We just talked about it. We'd come in on a Tuesday or a Monday night when the bar was closed and pack it out with 800 people.
Yes.
Right. I remember those days. It was awesome. Like counting money on the way home. It was a good time. And look, outside looking in, it looks like a hell of a thing. You're at the club every night, you're at the bar every night. But what'd that look like internally? How did that affect your personal, your mental life, your life with your wife? How'd that really weigh on you?
I think it got to a point where I realized that I was a great provider. I was a good cash register, but I sucked at everything else. My wife couldn't have been happy. My oldest daughter, I wasn't there. I was working all the time, and then
odd hours. I mean, you're leaving the club at 3, 4.
You get home at 4 or 5 in the morning, and then you sleep half the day because you're exhausted. And quite frankly, my idea of working was like, look, I got all these managers and people. I'm out there glad-handing people and buying shots and drinks, and I'm joining in with them and like, hey, this is fun. This is a party, and it's fun for a little while.
It gets old.
But man, it gets old real quick, and it'll age you real quick. And then, like I said, then I just realized the people that I love the most that around me, I didn't have relationships with my friends much, because guess what? If you wanted to come see me, you better come to the club and see me while I'm running around, because I'm just too busy. Yeah. I'm too busy. You get this feeling of self-importance for what? Because I'm getting people drunk and giving them some good music to dance to, and you feel like you're important because now all of a sudden you've got full pockets and things. But at some point, and unfortunately it took me way too long to realize how miserable I was internally, and how miserable I had made the people that I love the most around me.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, big fish in a little pond in
Yeah,
Denton, right?
Feels great.
Balling out of control.
Absolutely,
And so you did that 15 years after we got out of college, right? So you went in, you had bars and clubs, and then what was after the Groovy Mule and our bar in Denton? What'd you go?
Yeah, I had a place called The Lab. I had a place in Abilene called Lucky Mule Saloon, and then in what year was it? I don't even remember now. 95, maybe, something like that. Maybe it was later than that. I don't know. Anyway, I bought Rock and Rodeo. And that was probably my most successful one. It had been there.
It's like 98, 99.
Yeah, it was probably, might have been later than that. Yeah. It might have been early 2000s. In fact, it was like 2005. That's when it was.
Okay.
And so I owned that place for like 13 years. And we turned that place into a juggernaut. I mean, we brought in the biggest names. In fact, now I see all these names of guys that are selling out arenas and places, people like Cody Johnson and Parker McCollum and Whiskey Myers and all that stuff that played all the time at my place. Band. Eli Young, Eli Young started at our bar, and I managed them for a while. I was their first manager, and so all these guys that are filling arenas and making millions now, all started at that little hole in Denton, Texas at Rock and Rodeo, and that place was 13 years and was wildly successful. Successful. I mean, we built that place into a juggernaut. But again, I tell this story a lot, that I'll never forget that there was probably close to 1,000 people outside in the club, partying, having the time of their lives. And I was sitting in my office, still just working, on the other side of my door, almost 1,000 people partying. And I'm in there working away, trying to catch up with my never-ending to-do list. And I just sat back and realized I should be happy right now. And I'm not. This is not happy for me. Man. Yeah, man. Like I could open the door and see all this stuff and money coming in and people having a great time, and I was not, And I could go out there and fake it with the best of them, but I was just miserable internally,
That's tough. So when you reach the top of what you think is the top of the mountain, and you realize, man, I'm not freaking happy.
Yeah, and then. When Rock and Rodeo, we closed because they decided to build apartments there, which was probably a great decision for them. They're killing it. So good for them. Happy for them. But then I got this real brainiac idea, like, you know what? I need to get out of the club business. I'm too old for this now. So I went and bought my first full-service restaurant that I thought was going to be a better idea.
Oh, one to the other. Right.
And you think as you get older, you get smarter, but apparently I was regressing. Like maybe all the late night drinking had done the damage.
Caught up to you.
Yeah. So I buy this full service restaurant, and and it's beautiful, and it had so much opportunity and whatnot, but it didn't take long to be in that space to realize, oh my God, I've done it again. Now I'm in a place that's open 7 days a week. When we first started, we were open for lunch. On the weekends we're open for brunch. I mean, we're open all the time, and it's sports and it's music and it's this and it's that. So it's constant, and it's all on my shoulders for the most part. And that did not take long at all to realize how incredibly miserable I was doing that. And the place was, I thought it was great. It was 5 minutes down the road from my house, which I thought was a great idea.
Was it on Swisher?
It
Road
was
right there?
No. It's kind of back there off State School Road.
Okay.
Yeah, like on Unicorn Lake, and so and I thought 5 minutes away was a great idea. No, that's not great, because when your bartenders at midnight, 1 a.m, text you like, hey, there's some drunk guy here starting a fight. Can you come up here and help? Like, yeah, let me bring the big guns up there and run this guy off, And so, man, it was just, it was not a great experience.
Which was worse, restaurants or bars?
Restaurants, for sure. Don't ever, literally, I say this in my keynote, which is tricky because I've spoken to some restaurant folks before, and I say the words, never, ever own a restaurant. It is horrible. It is miserable. Like anything with food is just bad idea. Like, you don't know how bad it is until you have like an old lady pull you down at the table and you have to do the, the little restaurant
squat.
manager pose.
Squat.
Yeah. And this lady berates you. Like, and this lady's in her mid 80s berating me for coleslaw. And I'm like shaking my head going, you gotta be kidding me right now. I'm being yelled at by an elderly lady, and all I can do is say, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You're right. You're right.
Yes, ma'am.
And I had a teacher. I remember there was a group of teachers there, and they were unhappy about something. So I go to their table, and I think I've fixed it all, and I think everything's great. And as I'm walking off, one of them, it was not fixed with her because she stood up and screamed at me across the restaurant. And her quote was something to the effect of, well, you know what? I'm a teacher, so I know exactly how to run a restaurant and something else. And I just bowed my head and was like, okay, I quit,
Yeah.
So.
See, in bars, you can just fix that with a shot.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's easier
problem.
to make people happy. And you know what? If they're not happy, not anymore, but you used to be able to just throw them out, sometimes throw them through the door and just tell them to run along.
Yeah, don't come back.
Yeah, don't come
There's
back.
Plenty more in a college town.
It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a buddy that has a restaurant hobby currently, and it's fun to see. And, thank God I think I've learned my lessons through you and other folks that it's better to be a patron.
I know who you're speaking of, and he talked to me about helping him, and I was like, I don't think I can be any help to you whatsoever.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, so what is that when you had enough? Is that where the quitter mentality come from? And I want you to talk about that. But I mean, tagline quitter is not doesn't really scream winner or entrepreneur, but it gets your attention.
You get yelled at a lot. I get a lot of pushback on social media and things like that, and oh, you're spreading the wrong message. And I'm like, look. I don't ever tell people to quit on their team. I don't ever tell people to quit on their dream, and rarely ever will I even tell anyone to quit their job unless they just keep bringing it up, and it's a miserable. I do speak and I do some one-to-one coaching, but never in my talks do I tell people quit your jobs. If you want to talk about it after, we can talk about it after. But I think what I realized is along the way, again, realizing I was miserable, and then in the restaurant business, realizing I was really miserable, I realized that so much about success, like 90% of what we're taught about success typically excludes quitting. But I realized that I couldn't disagree more with that. It was always grind and hustle and grind and hustle. And I was like, hang on, man, there's got to be more to life than this, And so along my way in the restaurant business, it's 2020 and I already don't like the restaurant business, but I'm kind of stuck. Like, I got to be here a while. And then that lovely, worldwide pandemic broke out. That made it real hard to own a restaurant. So now I'm just sitting around my restaurant by myself during the day, looking around like, what do I do now?
Or people pick up margaritas to go.
Absolutely. We're trying to, I became a delivery driver. Like, I'm racing around town like Batman because there was cops used to see me run lights and wave to me. I'm like, oh, I'm a delivery driver now. I'm not even an owner. I'm just a delivery driver. But again, it just, you realize how miserable you are. And then all of a sudden, so I'm trying to work out and stay in shape and just try to keep my mind off stuff. And one day I go work out and I start feeling like this funkiness in my legs. And I'm like, what is that about? And I think, okay, well, I'm old. Maybe it's something in my back. And so I go get a massage or something and go to a chiropractor, and then it keeps coming back. And then finally I tell my wife one day, I'm laying in bed and I go, hey babe, I can't feel my feet. And she goes, what? She goes, yeah, I said my feet are numb. And she goes, well, you should probably go see a doctor. And
should probably get that checked out.
As usual, she was right. And so go to the doctor, go to another doctor, go to a neurologist, and they put me through this whole battery of crazy tests. And then the last thing they make me do is go get a spinal tap, which I always tell people I don't recommend, but if you got to, you got to.
They knock you out for that or no?
What's that?
They knock you out for that?
Nope. No. They do. Actually, no, I take that back. They gave me something. Like, I didn't feel it.
Okay.
But I saw the needle and was like, good God. And so I understood why my wife, when we were having our second and she was about to get the epidural and the guy was walking up behind her and I'm in front of her holding her hands and I make this face and she goes, don't make that face. And I'm like, you can't see that needle. They're going to put that in your back. So,
I'm going to look at you, honey, because I don't want to look at that.
Yeah. But so they do all this stuff, and then the neurologist brings me back in and tells me, hey, Mr. Banks, you have multiple sclerosis. And I'm like, what? Like, I already own a restaurant. Isn't that enough? Yeah. And now I own a restaurant. The bar game. I own a restaurant during COVID. Isn't that enough? And now this. And so it just really brought things into perspective, and happy to tell more about that story if you want. But
what was this? Here's my question for that: is what was your reaction time to reality? Like, how long? Like, what was that time between you're like, holy shit, what's going on? The fear, the uncertainty, to getting your mind wrapped around it, right? I mean, we hear about people getting cancer diagnosis and this and that. We talk about, okay, well, here's where they're good. I want to know about when it wasn't good. Like, how'd you deal with that time and all the things that are going through your head?
It was quicker than you think for me.
All right.
Because Doc tells me this, and I'm already just shaking my head like, I can't believe this. And then that follows up with him telling me that he wants to put me on these drugs that cost $8,000 to $10,000 a month. Oh. And admittedly do not heal you, only hope to slow the progression of the disease.
Oh, the sick care we have.
And then you get to see the list of side effects from these drugs, and you're like, holy, who would ever want to take these things? Like, I don't care. I might be healthy as a horse, and my MS might go away, but now I'm bald, and I'm depressed, and I have anal leakage, and all kinds of other, like, just lovely things.
All the things you hear on the commercial.
Oh my God.
May cause.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
I'm good with the first disease.
Yes.
Like, I'm good with the
I'll
first.
just take MS, thanks, So, so he tells me all that, and I remember vividly, like, I said, hey, it also says it causes depression. And I had this story that goes back to high school with my grandparents, and I just remember it really triggering some stuff in me from that story. And with depression, he shook my hand and he got real close to me, I remember, and he said, Mr. Banks, don't worry. I've rarely seen much depression with this drug, and when I do, it usually goes away pretty fast. And I was like, well, isn't that heartwarming? And so I said, well, Doc, if these drugs are going to cost me $8,000 to $10,000 a month while my hair is falling out and I'm depressed and all these other things, like, I don't see the depression going away very soon. Yeah. And so I walked out of that office, and the other thing they told me was that how I needed to change my diet. And one of the things on my diet that they told me I probably shouldn't do is drink beer. And I was like, well, now you've offended me. Now I'm pissed. So I remember we left the doctor's office, and I sat in the car in the parking lot of the doctor's office, and I definitely cried for a while. And I don't know if we were there 3 minutes or 30 minutes, but I was just absolutely overwhelmed. Like, what am I gonna do? I can't. I watched my older sister go through a version of MS that just put her down for years. I mean, they had her on all these drugs that she slept and stayed in her house for 3 years straight, I think, pretty much. I mean, it was depressing. And I watched one of her friends who ended up in a wheelchair and all this with MS. And so I had all these horrible visions in my head. So once I got myself together outside the doctor's office, the wife and I immediately drove down and went to some Mexican food restaurant, and I drank some cold beers, and I had some Mexican food, and I literally sat in this booth, like teary-eyed, just like shaking my head, like, what? But then, I realized the one thing that I'd been good at my whole life was working. And so my wife said, come on, let's go home. We got to get to work. And so we went home, and that's what we did. We got to work trying to figure out what's our options here? What else can we do? And the quick version is we found this stem cell transplant therapy that they're doing. They do it in the U.S., but at that point it was mostly trials and things like that. where it had been really successful for years now was places like Russia and India and Mexico. So again, after tons of homework and research, I decided I was going to Puebla, Mexico. I spent 28 days there. My oldest daughter went with me because you're supposed to take a caretaker. So she quit her job and went with me for 28 days. It involves chemotherapy, stem cell transplant. Like basically what they do is they break down your immune system to nothing, like you're a baby, to rebuild it and try to, get rid of the progression of the disease. And thrilled to say, thank God that it has worked for me and it's been great. And I'm probably healthier than I've been in my whole life. And I work out all the time and I try to eat better and, and so.
How's the beer coming?
Beer's still good.
Beer's still good. I
drink less of it at age 52, but I still enjoy it, just less of them and earlier in the day. So, yeah.
What was that 28 days like with her? Was it rough?
No, it honestly, like you worry, people go, man, you went to Mexico and got some weird treatment. And I'm like, you know what? Better treatment, better service, better people than I'd ever had in any American hospital I've been in or doctor's office. I mean, the people were wonderful. The facilities were great. It was during COVID, so we were a little limited on some of the things. Like normally they would take you out and show you the city and it's really rich history in Puebla, Mexico. And you could even order food in, but you couldn't do that because of COVID. So, it was a little bit limiting, and chemotherapy is definitely no joke. I mean, it hurt, but I handled it a lot better than most, I think, because I was very early on. There was a lot of people I was with that had, been diagnosed 20 years ago and already in wheelchairs and things. And so I was very happy I made the decision to go quick.
Yeah.
You could look outside your window and there's a active volcano outside that would blow off little poofs of smoke every once in a while. That was really neat. And it was a beautiful city, beautiful people, just, again, some rough days with chemo and, at some point you end up, I thought, man, I'm not going to lose my hair. This is great. And then, man, one of those last days, there was me opening my mouth again, go take a shower, like, uh-oh.
Oh, just clumps. Oh, no.
Clumps. So, you know what? I took advantage of it. I went up on the roof. One of the young ladies there had some trimmers, and I said, before you shave it all, I need a mohawk. So
nice.
Got a mohawk, took some pictures with the mohawk, told my wife I was bringing that bad boy back. She said, no, you're not.
No, sir.
But had the mohawk. So I was bald, lost my facial hair, like everything that I tried to disguise this ugliness with was all gone. I was like, oh, now I'm just an open book of ugliness. Here we go. So it was odd and it was strange, but another interesting part was we got home. And, here I haven't seen my wife or my youngest for a month now. And 3 days after we get home, my wife gets COVID. So now the woman I love and haven't seen in a month has to live upstairs. I live downstairs. We never see each other. We text or we yell to each other, and we're doing all this stuff, trying to keep the house clean and keep us apart and make sure, because I have no immune system.
Yeah, your immune system's...
No, like they tell me when I leave, if you even get a cold or any food poisoning, it could kill you. So I'm super on, like I can't be around people. Like it's a crazy thing. And we're also trying to homeschool an 8-year-old at the time. Oh, wow. So it was something.
It was rough.
It was something. But you know what? It completely changed my perspective on life and every single day. And I'll be honest, like I'm happier now because I went through it. If I hadn't gone through it, I just would have been the miserable restaurant guy for God knows how long until I finally got rid of it, or they found me floating in the river or something.
Blessings in the skies,
yeah,
man.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing.
You never know what's laying on the other side of something that's put in front of you or given to you, or hard to think about it in that moment.
For sure.
Right, but looking back again, like the premise of the show, looking back, I mean, it definitely was a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely.
How long did it take you to build your immune system back up? And
not too long. I mean, a few months. I was going to get blood tests every month, and they told me, like, stop doing that. Like, go every 2 months, but don't go every month because you're going to get yourself too excited, and you'll see some numbers jump, but you got to get your white blood cell. And so, yeah, I'd say probably 6 months until it was fully back. Yeah, so not too bad.
Is that when did the quitting epiphany come to you?
So
sounds
actually,
like it was there a long time, and it's funny how things you start tweaking on it and thinking about when did it?
So this goes back to EO. So while I was in this lovely restaurant business and I would go to our, monthly EO meetings and with my group, and all I would do was complain about how miserable I was, and the restaurant business sucked, and oh my God, this sucks, and guys, please help me do something. And John Pollock said, hey man, have you ever thought about being a speaker? I said, what do you mean? He said, well look, you've got years of interesting stories, you've got a lot going, and this was after the MS stuff, so that had happened, and he said, you've got all these interesting stories, you've got this message, and I just feel like, you're not scared to go talk in front of people. You've been on the stage with a mic in front of hundreds of people, so it's not scary to you. Man, you should really look into speaking. And so he turned me on to this wonderful place called Heroic Public Speaking. And basically, they do a lot now, and they help you go through and literally craft your speech. They work with you on your stage presence. They do the whole thing. And so yeah, I went through it, and it was COVID, so my restaurant wasn't doing much. So I literally sat there and I did these online classes for months and wrote this speech, and one of the writing coaches said, at this point I didn't know what my speech was about. I'm just sending her stories, and most of them are bar stories and probably a little.
So you didn't start with the title, you just started telling stories.
Just started writing stories and sending them to the writing coach, and she goes, you know what, I noticed something. I said, what? She said, I noticed that a lot of these stories, they end, have happy endings, but they're happy and they're joyful at the end because of something you quit. And she said, have you ever thought about making quitting like your arc and like your big picture idea? And I was like, no, I hadn't. But then I did, and so then it all came about. And then I noticed everything she was saying and was like, that's interesting. So then I started looking into it, going, wow, can we talk about quitting? Are we allowed to talk about quitting? Are people going to be mad that I'm talking about quitting? And then I started looking into stories of really highly successful people and looking at things that they had quit to become successful. I laugh at Harvard because Bill Gates and Zuckerberg both quit Harvard and both said that they never would have got where they were had they not quit Harvard. And so I make fun of Harvard, like, see, maybe you guys aren't good at what you do. These people are quitting and they're doing good. So, but yeah, that's kind of where it all started. And then it just has gone down this path. And then it's great because now when I talk to people and do coaching and everything, it's amazing to hear people talk about the things that they need to quit, and it's fascinating, and it is from the biggest things in the world to the smallest things.
And you find people are scared to do it, of the unknown, like they don't know what's on the other side.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, if I quit this, if I stop doing this, the world's going to end.
Yep.
Like my company's going to fall apart.
Yep. Everybody, the fear part is the hardest thing with the quitting. The fear of the unknown and the change is I went through it. I was like, all I know how to do is own bars. That's all I know how to do. And then I realized, wait a second, I don't know how to do much, but I know how to do a couple other things, and there's other things I could be good at. So yes, the fear, the change, that's everybody's hardest part, and the being uncomfortable, it's like trying to realize that it's those uncomfortable places that get you to the most comfortable places.
Yeah, embrace the suck.
Yeah,
right. Embrace the unknown.
Absolutely.
Embrace the uncomfortableness, because that's the only way you grow.
Yep.
Right. I mean, you get stagnant. You get in one place.
Yeah.
You're just not growing, man.
Yeah.
I tell you, it's interesting. Like, we're going through some big change in our company, but I can track back to when I stopped focusing on personal development, a coaching program, or something like that.
Yep.
And before I could see, when I made this jump and I read this book or I met somebody and I got a different perspective, our business would grow, right?
Yep.
And I can literally track it back like to the month or to the quarter when I got out of this program and I stopped focusing on personal growth, how the business stopped growing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I talk so much about quitting that it's almost weird, but I tell people all the time, like, it's just, the whole work hard, play hard deal, I mean, I say, like, work smart, play hard, and then quit all the things that are keeping you from being able to do those two things.
Yeah, all the bullshit you think you have to do.
Oh my God. How many meetings are we sitting in every day?
Yeah, just useless meetings.
How many meetings? How much time are we spending doing this? Oh my God, great, some more Instagram messages that don't matter, or like my favorite one that I quit, I came up with this idea that I was going to do last year, which was a good and bad idea, which was I was going to do 30 days of quitting. And every day I was going to go on social media and say, I'm quitting this, I'm quitting that. And when I first started coming up with the list of 30 things, you know, the first 10 or 12 were really easy. And then it starts getting a little bit harder. And by the end, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to make up some bullshit here because I don't even know what else to quit. Like, I'm gonna quit leaving the grocery basket in the parking lot, like that, like whatever. I'm gonna have to do something, just some funny ones. But man, one of my favorite ones was quitting watching the news.
Oh yeah.
Because that was my morning. I wake up, watch the news, get incredibly depressed at how bad it sucks in the world. And I'm like, it doesn't suck that bad. It just, the news sucks. And so, you know, I started trying to figure out if I needed news. You know, I'm not saying bury your head in the sand. Like, obviously know what's going on, but where else can I get my news that doesn't make me depressed and, you know, make me want to just, you know, jump off a building?
I quit social media probably 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Had some relapses, right? Yeah. You know, the kids started wanting to get on TikTok, and
Yes.
I had to go check and see what that's all about.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Tricky.
Like,
That one's
it
tricky.
was really, really bad. You know, and the flip side of it too, that I looked at social media is like, you know, mine was, you know, food stuff and social and motivational stuff and this and that. But like, you're seeing the best of the best, right? The people's best lives. And I started looking like, my God, why am I not getting up at 4:30 in the morning, running 3 miles and ice bathing and then sauna and then meditating and then reading? Like, what's going on?
Yeah,
like,
I'm not doing it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I had to be done with it, right? I mean, and the news, the same thing. Like, I'll catch myself in the morning, maybe it comes on or something, or I'll go to my parents' house. I'm like, no, that's gotta turn that off.
My dad loves to talk to me about politics, and I'm like,
About
shut
Fox
it down.
News, about the Fox News? Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
I'm out, Dad. Like, I don't want to talk about it. Don't want to be near it. Don't care. Like, I care, but I just don't want to talk about it.
You can't do anything about it.
No, I can't change that.
You cannot affect the politicians we have in office cannot affect change. How do you think? What are we gonna do?
No.
Right?
No. And that's what I love about what I do, because if I can go speak to an audience of people, or I can do one-to-one coaching with people, and I can get them to quit these things that are making them miserable or keeping them from being joyful and happy, like, my God, the fact that anyone pays me to do this is almost like stealing. But it's so great. Like, you've never felt such an unbelievable feeling when you see somebody you've been working with or talking to get over that hump, or you get an email after you spoke to people 3 months ago that say, hey, thank you so much for your advice. Because of that, I quit this and quit that, and now this and this has happened, and my life is great. And you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they listened to anything that this guy said.
Do you think that you know, I think we do stuff all day just to fill our time, right?
Sure.
And when you start quitting the nonsense that doesn't have any impact on your life, you think there's a time in that place where you're like, well, what am I going to do, right? What am I going to fill my time with? Right?
Yeah.
And you either find something productive or you don't.
Yeah.
And I think it's also like people are just uncomfortable doing nothing.
I think that somewhere along the way, and I don't know how long this has been going on, but somewhere along the way, we started to associate busyness with success.
Yeah.
Like, oh, look at me. I've been at work for 10 hours today. Yeah, but did you need to be? How much of that 10 hours was just BS?
Yeah,
you
let me
know?
see your screen time. Oh, 3 hours on the phone.
Exactly. You know. So what if you'd have spent 5 hours at work that day, and you could have spent an extra 5 hours at home with your family, with your kids? I don't care if you want to sit on the couch, take a nap. Sit on the couch, take a nap. Go exercise. Go do something. Go try something new. You know. That's
what I'm saying. I think that when I look at, and this was a topic yesterday in Forum for me, is like we were just kind of setting Forum goals, and it was, you know, mind, body, money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
There was no personal, right?
Yeah.
And I see the business stuff just blending into the personal. And like, when you quit the BS, then you can go do things that have nothing to do with your mind or body or money or your business. You can go create new relationships, create new talents, create new habits.
Yeah. Memories. Go make memories.
And it's tough to do that. So I'm wondering if there's like a fear of like, okay, well, if I quit this, what am I going to go do? And can you go find something new to do? And then in the middle is like, are you okay like doing nothing? You know, I watched something on the Golf Channel a while ago, and it was Freddie Couples, and the guy's going through his day, and you know, ask him what he is. He's like, I'm really good at doing nothing. Like I'm really good at sitting my ass on this couch
Yeah.
and doing nothing. I'll get up and practice. I'll go play around, but other than that, like I don't do a whole lot.
You know, when I sold the restaurant and I was speaking, but I wasn't speaking that much. It was early on, and I got real good at doing nothing because it had been, I don't remember the last time, it was college since I did nothing. And I was really good, man. My wife was like, man, you're leaving a real imprint on that chair over there. I was like, yep, just watching golf, watching sports, watching whatever, like, man, pretty great, you know, whatever. But yeah, I mean, and that's hard to do. And for people like us and anybody who's in EO or been in EO, like that's not how we're built. It's not how we're wired. But I just think somehow you have to rewire yourself because, you know, one of my favorite questions I love to ask people when I start coaching them is I ask them the most simple question is, are you happy? And most everybody will tell you, yeah, I'm happy. I mean, you know, this is okay, and I make some money, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, hang on. But are you happy? You know, and when you get them to really be honest with themselves, you figure out pretty quickly they're not very happy. They're not very happy. They're like I was, like, yeah, they're great providers, but what are you doing? What do you do? Like, what memories are when you're sitting on your deathbed? Are you going to be like, man, those 80-hour weeks at work really were kick-ass. Those were great. I'm really happy I did that. No. You know, I mean,
like, are you joyful? Like, are you full of joy? Like, happiness is one state, but like being joyful.
Yes.
Different.
Life is short, man. I mean, you hear it all the time. You know it, and then you know, and I always knew it, and you heard it all the time. But then, like for me, going through my diagnosis, thinking like, shit, am I gonna? How much longer am I gonna be alive?
Yeah.
And then trying to. You know, and it's a challenge every day. Don't make it sound like I woke up one day and like now every day I wake up and I'm like, let's go, you know? No, man, I have horrible days, you know, but most days are better than a lot of those old days because I do wake up with purpose and trying to figure out like, all right, not only what can I do for me, what can I do for my family, what can I do for others? And it's completely changed everything. And I'm telling you, like I said, just helping people find that joy, like you talked about, helping people find that joy and actually get there. And it's really, it's not that hard. That's the other thing. And I want to say it's easy. Quitting's hard. We talked about it. Change is hard, all this stuff. But you know what? It's not that hard. You've done a lot harder things in your life. Yeah. And guess what? If you'll just quit some of those simple things, maybe it's the hard things, but you can get there and then you'll be shocked at like, man, why did I spend so many years doing that when I could have been doing this?
And really, if you think about it, quitting is growth.
Yeah.
Because you only have so much time to do things.
Yep.
And you knock out the crap that is meaningless,
right?
That's not positive, that's a bad habit, and you fill that with good things, then you're growing.
Yeah, you're just quitting this so you can make room for something better. You know, that's it. I mean, and it has to be coming from me. It has to be simple because that's me. I'm simple. You know, like I said, I graduated with a recreation and leisure studies degree. I'm not a PhD in anything other than life and quitting maybe. But yeah, it's not that difficult. And I think people make their days hard. People make their lives hard. And I don't think it's that complicated, you know?
Yeah, and if you look at entrepreneurism, right?
Yeah.
And what it's become of this hustle and grind, and I've got to hustle. That's really not what being an entrepreneur is about.
No.
An entrepreneur is about giving other people opportunities.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you're hoarding everything and I've got to do it and nobody can do it better than me, you got a job.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
You've got a job.
Absolutely.
Like, congratulations.
Yeah.
You may call yourself an entrepreneur, but if you can't leave and you can't detach, you have a job.
Yep.
Right?
And that was me for years, for sure. Like I was, you know, I call myself an entrepreneur because, hey, I own the business, but my God, I'm not working on the business. I'm working in the business all the time. You know, that's all I was doing. And again, not happy. Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not building the right team. I'm not building the right culture. You know, I'm just working.
Yeah, I think back, I read a book in college called The Tipping Point, and he said, look, your business is more valuable without you in it. And so from the first business I started, it was, I said, how can I replace myself? But at the end of the day, it's how can I quit?
Yeah.
Like, how can I, if I'm doing this, how can I quit that and go do something else?
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. And that's how you grow a company. That's how you give up people other opportunities. But I'm with you, man. This hustle and grind, like I got to work 40 hours a day and I got to do it with all the technology and all the resources we have. If you're not working smarter, you got a job.
You are doing it incorrectly. Yes. And I again, those are the people that I get more arguments with than anybody, whether it's in person or online. I get lots of snarky social media messages from entrepreneurs, especially, and it's usually the startup guys. It's the young guys who are like, well, man, you're saying it all wrong. Like, come on, I saw so-and-so and he said, you got to do this. And I was like, well, okay, when did he say that? You know, like Gary Vee is one of those guys. I love Gary Vee. And if you watch Gary Vee 10 years ago, he was the hustle and grind guy. He was the work. And he still works hard, don't get me wrong, but he also, now he talks about how important it was for him to build his teams and do this and do that, and now how his life is so much more joyful because when he is working and what he is working on is what he wants to work on, and what he gets joy and the fun out of and whatnot.
And he didn't know any better at the time when he was grinding out. And so the other part of being an entrepreneur is learning from people that's been there, right? He figured it out 10 years later.
Right.
So what can you go and take where he's at now and get to that spot sooner? Like, there's no like, you got to put your dues in, but you don't put your dues in for 10 years.
No.
You know? No. Not when there's so many people that you can learn from and follow their path and not make the same mistakes they made. And that's really a lot what EO is about. Like if I look back at my kind of EO journey, like I was saying, I'm gonna really date myself, but I won't put a date on it. But like 2 years after I started Utility Concierge, like I thought I was in it all day, like, and I was super unique and like, there's no way I can do this, but getting in EO, it was like, man, there's a lot of weird people out there. Like I'm not alone, right? You know, I found my
there's
people,
a bunch of us,
right?
Yeah.
And I was very intentional about trying to surround myself with people that had been there and done that, so I don't have to make those mistakes, you know? And I think the entrepreneurs that are out there that are hustling and grinding, that are in that mentality, who are they looking to as mentors, right? Are they looking to people that are in their same spot? Or are they looking to people that have done it for maybe 3 or 4 years? Are they looking to people that's 10 years, 15 years out of the game?
Or are they looking?
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Because that's another problem that I had is, you know, and there's a lot of industries like this, but I definitely know in the nightclub, bar, restaurant industry, it's very hard to tell anyone who owns a nightclub, bar, restaurant anything because they all think they know everything. You know, like people have asked me before, like, why don't you do consulting for nightclubs and bars and restaurants? I'm like, no. Nightclub and restaurant owners, they think they know everything.
They know it all.
They'll never listen to you, much less pay you. You know, right. So they go figure it out the hard way, and they work 80, 90 hours a week, and they're miserable, and they probably die a young death.
Yeah,
you know,
I think that's the great thing about EO is that it's all about who you surround yourself with, right? If you think you know it all, this ain't the right place for you.
No,
right?
And finding a mentor, that's the thing. Again, just admit that you don't know everything. Go find yourself a mentor, go find yourself mentors, you know, like find some people that have actually been there, done that, you know, and that's what, like when I joined EO, it was great because there was nobody else really that I was aware of in the nightclub and bar space. There was a restaurant person here or there, whatever. It didn't have to be. They were business people, and they understood business.
Your business is not unique.
It's not at all. It's just business. And so I was like, man, here I am talking to people who have absolutely polar opposite businesses than I have, and we're both dealing with the same crap, you know? And so how did you fix it? Great. I'm going to go try to do that. You know, it's wonderful. That's why I think, you know, my EO experience was great, and had I not changed industries and stuff, I'd probably still be there. But it just, I met some of the most incredible people that I still call on, you know. I'm so glad that I made the friendships I made because I still call on them for help and as mentors and like, hey, how did you solve this? You know, love to hear how you solved this one. And
the people that have been there, done that, and they're in a different season in their journey, they want to give back. Like I would say people are afraid to reach out to people. Like, trust me, I mean, unless they're really busy and they got it figured out, they want that, right? I have 2 cousins that are in the hemp industry of all things, but like they're like in startup mode, and it's so fun to talk to them because I'm able to say, look, dude, I'm looking at a freaking mirror. Like I've been there, I've seen that, and like it gives me a ton of energy. So
absolutely.
Call on people that you think that, you know, that maybe you think is crazy, like, oh my God, that guy's not going to talk to me. Because I promise you, that guy wants that energy.
For sure,
right?
man. Like it does. It feels so much better to give back, like the energy. And look, let's not lie about it too. Sometimes we like to feel like we're smart. You know? I love it when people ask my advice, like, holy crap, you want to hear what I have to say? I'm not telling you it's right, but here it is.
Exactly.
You know?
And you also realize, like, maybe I do know some shit.
Maybe I,
right?
Exactly. You definitely find out that you know more than you even thought you did, just from experience, and mostly from the losses, more than the wins.
And it dampens that old imposter syndrome a little bit, right?
For sure.
Because you're in it, and you'll rattle something off, and they're like, oh my God. Like, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that's no big deal, right? But it's just being able to give that back. And I'm really excited about putting together this, this alumni program and getting alumni back in, because we want the people back in the community. We don't want them to rejoin, right? Yeah. We want them back in the community because they have a lot to give, right? And we've got a whole nother batch of entrepreneurs that are coming up that need that mentorship, that need to be able to look to somebody and have access to people to learn from. Yeah,
I made a contact recently at our alma mater at UNT, and she's been working hard to get me in touch with some of the people over in the business and entrepreneur departments there, because I was like, man, I would love to just come talk to them. I don't care. I don't care if I say anything. Just let them ask questions if that's all it is. And I can't promise it's all going to be great, but I will give them everything that I got, and hopefully it can help at least a few of them.
They're going to get something. They're going to get a nugget, and that's what it's all about. Like, just pulling those nuggets throughout your conversations and people that are mentoring you.
And man, I wish I had that. At age 25, I bought a nightclub. I had never worked in a nightclub. I never bartended. I didn't know how to do anything. I just thought, this will be cool.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
And that's what I did, was, get kicked in the crotch for several years trying to figure it out. And then, you start to figure it out a little bit, and then things change, and here comes the kicks to the crotch again. You're like, now I got to figure this one out. And oh my God, if I'd have just had some mentors and some people I could talk to.
Like, it's okay, that happens.
Yeah.
Like, been there, done that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. And the couple that I did know, I was like, well, that guy's crazy, and he does a lot of horrible things, so that can't be my mentor. I can't ask him for help, because his advice is going to be horrible and probably involve drugs and something. So,
and knowing that you can ask it outside of your industry, I think that's the other cool thing about EO, understanding that at the end of the day, at the core, businesses are all the same.
It is,
right?
I mean, wholeheartedly. I mean, I of all people, NEO, gave advice to others, my forum group that included, lawyers and people from all walks of life. And I was like, I would give advice, and they'd be like, man, that's great. And I'm like, really?
Really? I learned that at 3:30 in the back club.
Way to go, me.
Club, right?
Yeah. How did I just give good advice to him? He's so much smarter than me, So, it's true.
Well, what's next for quitting? For the quitter. I
feel good about the amount of quit. You know what I need to do now? Now that I'm 52 and I've cut back severely on the alcohol, I still enjoy a good beer now and then, or old fashioned, but I don't drink much. But my new vice is coffee.
Okay.
And I need to calm down, is what I need to do, because I go have, speaking of mentors, so every Wednesday morning I go have breakfast with one of my buddies who's my mentor as well, and it doesn't matter what restaurant we go to. The first thing I tell the server is, hey, you keep this coffee cup full. Oof. And next thing I know, we leave there 2 hours later, and I have had 15 cups of coffee. I don't know. And I'm just springboarding off, and it's so coffee. And at night, there's been nights I'm sitting around my house going, man, you know what? A drink would sound good right now. Maybe I'll make myself a drink. You know what else? You know what sounds better? Coffee. So now I'm bypassing alcohol to go have coffee at 8 o'clock at night.
Decaf?
No.
Just coffee.
No, when you've been in the nightclub bar industry, none of that bothers you anymore. Like I'm that guy who at 2 a.m. could have pounded 12 Red Bulls back in the day and then gone right to sleep. Like, it just, I don't know.
Doesn't affect you.
No, I like coffee now. So that's my next thing that I think, I don't need to quit it, but I need to scale it back a little bit. Yeah.
What about for your journey on the speaking and the quitting brand? What's next?
I'm really hoping. I just started working with a new company, and I'm really happy. They're helping me get a lot more clarity on what it is not only where I want to go, but how I want to get there. And so, you know, my biggest goal is I just want to get in front of more audiences, you know, and so in order to speak more, you got to speak. And so, you know, I've thrown out my offers to people to come speak for little to nothing or whatever for the right groups, because again, it's not only good for me in my career, it's so great to go just talk and share my message. And if I speak to 300 people and two of them at the end of it, one of them at the end of it comes up and says, man, thank you, I got something out of that. That's all the juice I need for a while. You know, that really just gets me through a few more days. And so really for me, it's just going out there and you know, hey, quite frankly, when you're early on in a journey, you know, I'm not going to grind and I'm not going to go crazy working 80-hour weeks, but you know, just putting in the hours, getting your name out there. When you're a newer speaker, there's a lot of speakers out there, so it's just getting your name out there, getting your message, clarifying your message so that people don't think like, oh, great, he's going to tell our whole staff to quit. No, I'm not. I swear to God, I'm not. And so, you know,
have them quit the things they don't need to be doing, so they can be more productive.
I'm going
employees.
I'm going to make your employees be better at what they do. I'm hopefully going to help your office be better at what they do, because maybe you'll quit doing some of the things that you're doing now. Like, do we need a 2-hour staff meeting every Monday? Do we?
No.
Like, no. Like, maybe we need a staff meeting. Maybe it needs to be 20 minutes, you know? So yeah, I'm always going to go out there and try to help people quit and be more joyful, be more productive, just, you know, live better lives.
It's awesome, man.
That's it, man.
Dude, good catch up.
Good to see you,
it's
man.
been
So good to see you.
it's been too long, and
Yes.
literally been too long that we did the math. It'll be 25 years coming. I'm going to be 30 years coming up that we've known each other. So
I don't like to think about it.
No, me neither. Yeah,
And I have an 11-year-old. I have an 11-year-old at home.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, I have a 27 and an 11-year-old. So
You got a little bit more time to go.
that also helps you though, because when you get pregnant at 40, you realize I need to maybe start working out and maybe stop eating so much
Want to be able to
chocolate.
roll around with them grandkids.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're soccering every weekend and we're doing this, doing that, like, and I'm looking at all the other parents that are so much younger than us, and I'm like, all right. Good talk, y'all. Yeah, y'all need some advice. Like, I'm an old guy. If y'all need some help,
I'll be your parent mentor.
Yes, let me
Nice.
tell
Already
you
got one out of the house.
Yes, let me tell you. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for the time, man. I appreciate
Thank you, brother.
you.
I appreciate you, man. It's good
Awesome.
to be here.
It's been great. Well, listen, HEO Dallas, this is a little glimpse back in kind of Lloyd's story, and I mentioned a little bit about alumni. We're going to be starting up this alumni program. So any alumni that y'all know that want to get back into the fold, we want to talk to them. We want them back in the community. We don't care if you join. We want you back at events. We want you back mentoring, and we want to give you that energy back, right, of what it feels like to be around young entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs that are starting businesses, that you can give back and give some advice and help them along their journey. So thanks a lot for the time. I appreciate y'all. Talk soon. Thanks.